Hi, I'm Dave Youngquist and welcome to Last Cavalry TV. Well, I've been working on the new Jon Smith Modellbau World War I Prisoner bust. An absolutely fantastic kit and my favorite period, as you guys know. And I've been posting updates to the Last Cavalry Facebook page. And in doing so, I've been getting requests on how to paint realistic fabric textures. So I thought, what a perfect opportunity, because I'm not to that part of the figure yet, and I'll show you at least a technique or two that works well for me. Hopefully will work well for you too. Let's get started. So Jon Smith includes an incredibly detailed set of instructions, painting guide, construction guide, just unbelievable, best in the industry. So I primed with Krylon camouflage. I'm going to be using a little of the Ultramatte varnish from AK, the Andrea Field Gray paint set, and a Andrea color to add some high highlights. There's my brushes, and I'm using older brushes for the techniques here. So the first color that I'm going to be using is the color number 6 from the Field Gray paint set, and we're going to thin this out very, very heavily. The jacket or the tunic has already been base coated in the color number 1, which is really the base color. And we're going to lay in the deepest shadows, keeping the paint mix very, very thin, because we can always add more layers to increase the shadow if necessary. There we go. And just outlining some of the equipment. Again, I know I said it before, but keeping the paint thin at this stage allows you to really build up your shadows slowly. Now, using the color number 5, again, we'll make a thin wash. This is not a dark as color, and we're going into some areas that still would be shadowed, but not as darkly or as dramatically dark. There. Again, keep that paint mixture really thin. We can always build up in layers. Now, going to the Andrea color number 3, again from the Field Gray paint set, using an older brush. Still has a fairly good point, but is really too beat up for detail work. I begin to stipple on our first highlight color. Notice that I am not thinning the paint whatsoever during this stage. And using the side of the brush, just tap, 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 tap. This is what is going to create the wool effect. Just getting into the areas that light would hit. Our light source, or our imaginary light source for this figure, is 12 o'clock noon, so the light will be coming straight down. And again, just take your time, tap it in, kind of look over, see what you're doing. Where's the next spot to paint? There. You see, it's a pretty easy technique. You just have to really pay attention to the source of your imagined light. And touch up a little bit there with the number 5 color. So, painting's just a little bit of back and forth. So back to our number 3 highlight color. There we go. You can see this type of painting is a little rough on your brush. So again, use one that's in fairly good shape, but past its prime. Now we're going to use color number 4 which is a lighter color still. Again, we're not thinning the paint, and we're going to go into some of the higher highlight areas using the exact same technique of stippling. In building up these multiple layers of highlights with the different stippling techniques will really create a very realistic wool type of texture. Tap, 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 tap. A little bit more. It's starting to pop now. I'll do the right side of the tunic and the back off camera because the technique is exactly the same. Now we're going to take a bit of the AK Ultra Matte Varnish, just a little bit. This works, again, not to only flatten the paint. Well, the Andrea paints are very flat already, but it's going to help in the blending. So I'm going to add a bit of Andrea color number 3 from the Flesh paint set to lighten the Andrea color number 4 from the Field Gray paint set, because I want some real high highlights. And again, following that light source. And this third layer of highlights will really add a bit of dramatic punch to this this uniform. He is wearing the M1915 tunic, which is, the later war tunic, a simplified tunic for the soldiers. I'd already painted the reed green collar and actually used the exact same techniques that I'm using here, just use the Andrea green paint set. Now I've masked off the collar area, and I'm mixing up some Vallejo Camo Black Brown. Very thin, and we're going to apply a wash to some of the lower parts of the tunic. Again, you can see we're keeping this really, really thin. And then, to create more texture, we're going to use the old armor modeling technique of creating some splatter effects. So you just load the brush up, flick it with your finger, decide where it's going, kapow! And then a little bit more. And then if you get a little too much in certain areas, just tap out the excess. And if there's any excess water, get rid of that with the brush. Now we're going to add a little Iraq sand, also from Vallejo, to that mix, and do the exact same thing. This will be real subtle, but it adds a real nice, dirty, blotchy, kind of a rough effect. And again, we'll just blot out the excess. I finished the gas mask can and the canteen, and here's the figure. The figure completed. The back of the figure. And I really want to thank you for stopping by. This is Dave Youngquist, Last Cavalry TV. We'll see you real soon.